Okay, I'll take it from you. I'll take it from here. The late Mr. Nelson Ayewo was born on the 21st day of January 1962, and he had He rose through the ranks and was, in 2016, appointed Clerk of the Senate, a position he held until he retired in July 2020. He died after a brief illness at a private hospital in Lagos, and his interment will take place on Saturday, the 19th day of November 2022 at Gudu Cemetery, Abuja. May his gentle soul rest in perfect peace. Ordinarily, this should have come by way of a motion from the floor, but be that as it may, we've taken it by way of announcement, and I will now ask that the entire Senate observe a minute of silence in the repose of his soul. May the soul of Mr. Nelson Ayewo rest in perfect peace. Amen. Further announcement. This is a correspondence from the Chairman Committee on Appropriations. This is to reiterate, as earlier communicated to all subcommittees or appropriation committees, that they must submit their reports to the Appropriation Committee no later than Friday, the 18th day of November 2022. No later than Friday, the 18th day of November 2022. This is to enable the Appropriations Committee to submit its report to the Senate as scheduled. Please ensure compliance, as this is highly necessary. Signed, Senator Barao Jibril, CEO and Chairman. The date is Friday, the 18th. Friday, the 18th day of November 2022. Please, all submissions must reach the Barao Committee. If not, appropriate sanctions will be meted. Senator Barao knows what to do. So please, to avoid any such unpleasant consequences, ensure that all your submissions reach his committee no later than Friday, the 18th day of November 2022. Thank you. Petitions? If no petitions, Leader of the Senate. Petitions, okay. Senator Ali Mekana, please.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Francis Ali Mekana, representing the good people of Edo North. Mr. President, I have a petition from my constituent, Okwera Council, against the Boundary Commission on their failure to elect a monumentation in Edo to Kogi boundary. So, with your permission, I lay the petition.
Any pending litigation? In the absence of pending litigation, you may proceed to listen before the Senate.
Point of order, Mr. President. No, he's not.
Thank you. The petition is referred to the Committee on Ethics and Public Petitions to report back in 2 weeks. Point of order, Ubasani.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm coming under Order 4151. The point of order is on the issue of redesign of the new CBN notes by the central bank. Mr. President, you'll agree with me that in the last few weeks, there's a lot of conversation around.
Please, can you use your mic?
You will agree with me that around, in the last 2 weeks, there have been conversation on the issue of redesign of Naira notes by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And that is why I'm coming under 41 and 51 on the issue. With their permission, I can go ahead to read 41 and 51, Mr. President.
You may read 41, 51, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. 41. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. 51. Order 51. Mr. President, notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceedings for which notice is required except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Obasani. Let me acknowledge that earlier this morning, you did approach me on your intention to come up with this motion. And as provided in our rules, we also require the concurrence of at least 1/5 of our colleagues before this motion can be taken. So therefore, those in favor that this motion be taken right away say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, Senator Obasani representing Kaduna Central. The motion is on the redesign of the new Naira notes by the CBN, a call for legislative support. The Senate notes that the currency management is a key function of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and the integrity of the Naira and efficient supply of banknotes are indicators of a performing central bank, especially in predominantly cash-based economies such as Nigeria.
Just 1 second. Maybe we should wait to have the copies distributed. Is that what is being distributed right now? Okay, please, I'm sorry. Just 1 second. If you don't mind. Are we ready? Anyone who has not gotten his own? Oh, okay. Please give to our colleagues first before you give to others, you know. Man, thank you. You should be giving to our colleagues first before they give to. At least nobody was elected senator here. These are our senators who were elected. Thank you very much. Are we ready to go? Okay, Senator Basani, you may proceed.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the Senate knows that currency management is a key function of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and the integrity of the Naira and efficient supply of banknotes are indicators of a performing central bank, especially in predominantly cash-based economies such as Nigeria. Note also that in recent times, currency management in Nigeria has faced a series of challenges that have affected the ability of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to efficiently carry out its mandate of issuing legal tender, that is, provision of an adequate volume of clean banknotes in the right denominational mix for members of the public. Consigned, that these challenges will continue to grow in scale, with attendant consequence on CBN and Nigerians' reputation if left unaddressed. Aware that these challenges are primarily centered around the wholesale hoarding of Naira banknotes by members of the public, available statistics shows that cash outside the banks consists of over 80% of currency in circulation, CIC, as at the end of June 2022. Available data indicated that 2.72 trillion out of the 3.26 trillion currency in circulation was outside the vaults of commercial banks across the country. Further aware that recent developments in photographic and computer technology, as well as printing devices have made the production of counterfeit money relatively easy, thereby increasing the potential threat. In recent years, the bank has recorded a consistent rise in incidences of counterfeiting of the Naira, with 500 and 1,000 denomination banknotes most attacked. The threat to counterfeiting of the two denominations is a function of a large margin between cost of counterfeiting and gains derivable from the criminal act. Observes that the redesign of our currency notes will help rein in currency outside the banking system into the banking system, thereby making monetary policy more efficacious. Observes also that the redesign of the currency will help halt further depreciation of Naira, as the higher denomination and the volume of banknotes outside the banking system used to attack the currency will reduce. Notes also that redesign of the currency will assist. Notes that terrorism will also be halted, as access to the large volume of money outside the banking system used as a source of funds to pay ransom to bandits or terrorists will be reduced. Note also that the redesign of the currency will assist in the fight against corruption, as the exercise will reign in the higher denomination used for this purpose, and the movement of cash funds, the movement of such funds from the banking system will be tracked easily. Aware that the CBN's policy directs that the new design notes are to be introduced on 15 December 2022, when the current series ceased to be legal tender after 31st January 2023. Further aware that Nigerians have legitimate concern about the time frame within which to comply with the policy. However, there is a need for Nigerians to comply with the time frame, considering the importance of the process to the economy. Convinced that the introduction of any new banknotes is a proud and important moment for the country. Accordingly, results. 1. Urge the Senate to provide legislative support for the design of the new banknotes. 2. Mandate the Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions to embark on an aggressive oversight to ensure that Nigerians are adequately protected from the CBN banks and other agencies involved in the process. 3. Encourage Nigerians and the general public to comply with the Central Bank of Nigeria's directive to deposit cash holdings at their respective commercial banks. 4. Urge the Senate to support the decision of the CBN given the aforementioned benefits of the currency redesign to the nation. I so move, Mr. President.
Thank you. Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to support this motion about the redesign of the Nigerian currency, because indeed currencies are supposed to be redesigned after every 10 years. But while supporting this motion, looking at the fact that even the Bank of England had to redesign some of its currencies to polymer and had to give time frame within which monies should be retrieved, brought back to the bank. My concern is the vulnerable in the society, the unbanked, because those that are unbanked have their monies kept in the probably rural areas and all that. So it is now for the banks to begin a serious customer drive where they can be able to assist those who are unbanked, and especially those who are in the rural areas who are used to selling their various things. Like you go to a village, you find somebody selling yams and has money there. And the CBN should really now go on to very serious enlightenment, because there could be some people in some rural areas who might not even be aware of these policies. So there is the need for the CBN to go on a very serious enlightenment drive, one. Number two, the commercial banks should also now go through and ensure that they go to the various, and I repeat, various local environments where they can enlighten the people and, if possible, go on to customer drive. Mr. President, just because of time limit, otherwise, the Bank of England, I think, gave almost a 1 year window, but looking at 2 year window, 2 years window, they gave 2 years window where these monies were withdrawn gradually, and until last September, before these monies were finally withdrawn. And at the end of the day, they said that you could even go to the banks, walk into the banks, submit these monies and collect new monies. I want to say that in as much as it is that this policy is fantastic and very nice, and that it is the responsibility of the CBN to do that, but I want to say that they need to look at timelines, and they need to look at what time they can withdraw or pull out these monies from the system. But I see that the sponsor of the motion has also brought up some prayers which we'll look at in the course of the deliberation of this motion. But however, it is of course a thing of support that our money is protected, that more security features are added to the new monies that will be printed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed, I think it's becoming very, very obvious to me that there's a lot of interest in this motion. I mean that there'll be a lot of colleagues who want to speak. And that being the case, I'm going to request that we cut down the time to be used by colleagues to, do we say 2 minutes? Is that fair? 2 minutes. 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes is it. Senator Abdullah Sabi.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, Niger North. Mr. President, let me join the last speaker in commending the mover of this motion, and to say that I totally support this motion and its intent. The issue is truly, it's time for us to have this exercise, and it's good and gladdening that the CBN has taken it upon itself to assert its mandate. And of course, to say that yes, while this is being done, I also agree that the issue of process and procedure should also be looked into in such a manner that at the end of the day, our citizens do not fall victims. But having said this, the other flip side, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, is to also realize that there are security benefits also. Because given what has happened in this country over the years, it is trite for anybody to think that the volume of money in circulation, this massive volume of money, has not become a security threat to the country. It has. And we all know also that it has enabled people who do not mean well to undermine our economy. And I think one of the things happening now that we have to reiterate and to bring to the attention of both the security agents and the monetary authorities is the fact that as a way of, moving away from maybe perhaps taking, money to the bank, some people have resorted to now going to buy commodities and the like. So I think these are issues that we also have to take note of. Hoarding is an economic crime. Hoarding is an economic crime. So I think the relevant authorities should raise up and to know that some of these people doing that, we end up also hurting the citizens, especially now that it is harvest time. Farmers are being exploited out of desperation, and I think this is the other flip side of this argument that we must draw the attention of the relevant authorities. But having said this, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I support this motion, and I urge my colleagues to please, let's give all the necessary support. The law being implemented is a product of this Halo Chamber, and I think we need to give them that support. I, however, agree that the process and procedures must be such that it caters for the interests of those people like the minority leader has mentioned, and the overall benefit to the economy. I so submit. Thank you.
Thank you. James Ibiwi, Manager, CON.
Mr. President, of course. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, James Ibiwi, Manager, CON, Delta South. Mr. President, when you said it is like almost everybody's interested in this motion, it is taken. It's about money we are talking about, and everybody spends money. Even a little child of 1 or 2 years old, if you give the child money, the child will smile and be very happy with you. Even the man who is dying in his dying bed, in spite of the fact that he may not know anything, but he will know what money is, but he will smell it. So it's money matter, and therefore it's not surprising that everybody is interested. Mr. President, I also support this motion from A, B, C, D to Z, except prayer 2, because the committee is already charged with the responsibility of oversighting them. They are not going on investigation, and therefore they don't need to take mandate from us to do what they have already been mandated to do. Apart from that, all other prayers I support wholeheartedly. These are things that are being done periodically in all over the world. So it is not a new thing here. In fact, we have even done it before. I think it was President Buhari as a General Buhari who did it that time. In 1984. So it's not a new thing in this country. When I saw it and when I heard about it, I jumped at it because that is what is supposed to be done, particularly the issue of counterfeiting. When a particular thing stays too long with the people and with the kind of people we are, so many things are likely to crop in, and that is exactly what is happening. And the CBN, just like the last speaker before me said, we have mandated the CBN to go into these things, so long as there is an approval from the president. And in matters like this, you don't need to flog it and over-publicize it. Those who have decided to do this between the Mr. President and the CBN government, they know why they are doing this thing. Let us leave them alone to do their own thing. But because of who we are, this is a very complicated society. There are so many of the rural people who have never gone to the banks once in their lives. So many. The money they have, they keep it. Every now and then they look at the money they have, and they are grateful to God. It's not about leaving the money in the hands of another person. It's very suspicious to them.
3 minutes over.
I'm sorry, man. You are the one doing this thing. So, Mr. President, flexibility is what is important now for us.
The indigene of the Senate prerogative. You may use more than 3 minutes.
You know why we are playing this game. It's Delta man presiding, and the Delta man is talking. Delta United Force. Mr. President, and therefore I think I support this motion. And when it comes to the prayers, like I said, we will amend some of the prayers. And what is important is for it to achieve its purpose and achieve its target. That is what is important. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Senator Ali Ndume.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. I'm going to use the 2 minutes. My colleagues have said it all, but there's one important thing that I want to re-echo, and that is what the minority leader touched on briefly, and distinguished Senator James Manager also mentioned. It is very, very important for the CBN, either through the chairman of the committee that brought it, to ask the CBN to address or come up with ways of how to handle the situation that most of our rural populace are facing in terms of cash dealing. I give you an example. In my state, we have 27 local government. After the insurgency, as it is now, we only have 5 banks in the 27 local government. And you know, if this is implemented without adequate arrangement, people will have problem moving their monies to the central banks. The insurgents, armed robbers, criminals will virtually be looking out to waylay them and take away the little they have. So the CBN should make adequate arrangement to address this issue where local government, towns that don't have bank will have access to changing their money. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ali Ndume. But I think that is adequately addressed by prayer 2. I'm sure when we get there, we'll deal with it. Let me just take, to be gender sensitive so I don't get accused a second time. I will take Senator Biodun Olujimi and Senator Piafi. Please.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Biodun Olujimi, I represent Ekiti South. Mr. President, I am in full support of this motion. I believe we need to do something about the liquidity that we now have in the country. But I also believe that there are serious issues to be considered. One of them is the one mentioned by the minority leader on the window open to everybody to exchange their money for the new one. 1 month and a half is extremely short for what we're about to do. Because if you withdraw 1 trillion from this economy at once in a month, the ripple effect will affect everybody. It will affect our buying power, it will affect markets, it will affect traders, it will affect everybody. And if we're not careful, we will shut down the economy. And that is very, very important consideration for CBN and all the banks involved. My colleagues have spoken of the other issues. However, there is one more issue. We have serious elections within this period. And everyone knows that with elections come logistics, come arrangements, and co. If everything is withdrawn from the system, we do not want a situation whereby there will be preference for certain people to get funds out of the bank and the others cannot. That is very important and key to whatever we're doing. And the Senate should invite the CBN governor so that we can hear from him what he intends to do where all these are concerned. And I believe when we're comfortable with that, then no one has a problem with what is on ground. I thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Lujimi. Senator Betty Apiafi.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I join my other colleagues to state clearly that it's a prerogative of the CBN to print currency. And of course, the approval of the president they've already got. But the issues that bother everyone is the implication of this policy. A lot of people have spoken about the shortness of time and the people in the rural areas and all of that. If we are aware, recently our banking sector has undergone a lot of mutation, if I say, and rural banking has more or less shut down in all our rural areas. So of course that's an issue. A lot have spoken about it, but then I want to add other issues. What has this policy got to do with fiscal policy in the economy? What does it have to do with our foreign policy in terms of exchange rate? What does it got to do with our economy? What improvements will it do our economy? Right now, the exchange rate is going out of control. Is this policy going to do anything good to our economy? Is it going to help the exchange rate? Is it going to reduce inflation? What is it really going to reduce? What about the cost associated with this printing? You know, these are some of the questions we need to get clarifications from CBN. And like I'm a member of the committee and as the chairman has spoken, we would look at all of this and see how it affects the economy. If we want to talk about changing currency because of security challenges, I don't think that's enough. America, or if we talk about counterfeiting as a reason for changing currency, I don't think that's enough. American dollar is everywhere in the world. It is being forged everywhere. It is being used everywhere in the world. It hasn't made them to change their currency. But I think we need to look deeper into these issues, the economic implications of it. Is it going to help Nigeria in any way? We are at a crossroad as a nation, and our economy is in a very bad shape. What is the implication of this? Is it going to make it better, or is it going to contract our economy? Because is it going to make our economy more dollarized? Or is it going to make our economy, the naira, to be useful? I read somewhere yesterday that the insurgents are already saying they will collect SEFA. They will collect SEFA as ransom. So we need to be very careful and review these issues properly and be guided the proper way for the interest of this nation at this very critical time of our economy. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Senator Barao.
Because you are spoken.
If the balance here, if you don't mind. Senator Barao, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barao Jabrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, the fact that CBN has the latitude to carry out the redesign of Naira is not in doubt. They have the legal authority. They have that independence. And that is not in doubt because it's the norm all over the world. Central banks have this latitude to have their operation in an independent manner. So there's no doubt about that. Having said that, Mr. President, let me say we need to take cognizance of our peculiarity as a nation. Our rural folks do not engage in any activity to do with banking. They don't bank their money. They don't keep their money in banks. And so we must make sure that their interests are protected. We must create a means to make sure that they don't lose their monies. Each and every one of them should have a way of getting his or her money into the banking system when this exercise is going to be carried out. Some, as said by James Manager, some will keep their money at home, and the money they look at this money, touch the money, and they get satisfied. When you tell them to take the money to the bank, they will tell you, they are going, no, they'll be shortchanged. So we need to look at this peculiarity of our people, of our rural folks, of the voters that brought us here, so that they don't get, messed up in this exercise. And let me help my friend, the sponsor of this motion, that terrorism will be halted. No, don't put yourself on a hot spot. How can this halt terrorism? It will only reduce terrorism. So that has to be looked at. I so submit, Mr. President.
Senator Otazi, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I want to join my colleagues. I'm Senator Chukwukudas and I represent Enugu North Central District of Enugu State. Mr. President, I want to join my colleagues in supporting this exercise by the Central Bank of Nigeria. You know, at the onset of this announcement, we started hearing from hearing divergent opinions, one from the Minister for Finance and the other from the CBN and all that. But I know that all of us who are very used to the banking and the financial institutions and other matters under this at BOFID know that it is the duty, it is sole responsibility of the Central Bank of any country to bring physical policies that affect everything they do about banking, including change of notes, monetary policy. So that's their business. And they don't share this thing with anybody. And that's why it is made so in the thing that the central bank governor is independent. You can, once appointed, he's on his own to do anything. If he thinks fit that this is what's going to do, he will do that. And Mr. Godwin Emefiele has just exercised such powers. And this Senate that screens them and approves them today is giving him the nod that he should continue with what he's doing. And he has our backing. Now, having said that, Mr. President, with my colleagues, I also want to say that because of the peculiarity of Nigeria, the rural nature of our city, the leadership of this National Assembly has to interface with the CBN governor with a view to ensuring that our local populace do not suffer in this exercise. Because it has already been said here by colleagues that most of our people in the rural area do not go to banks. They have up to 10,000 naira, 15,000 naira, 20,000 naira, 50 at most. So if they have this, the banks, the central bank working through the commercial banks, will find a way of visiting the rural areas as it used to be done in the past. With the security agencies, they will come to the market. They will put a date. They are going to visit this particular area, and these people will come there with their money and change there and collect their money. This 20,000, 50,000 naira, they collect their new money and go back and continue their trading. If you want to compel these people to go to the bank, they will never go. And the economic activities will ground down to a halt. So the central bank has to find a way to visit all the rural communities in the rural local government and the local government areas with a view to making things work. If we don't, Mr. President, the tendency is that money changers will go into profiteering at the expense of people. You can't go to the bank. If I'm going to go to a bank on your behalf, what are you giving to me? So we will not do that because it will visit hardship on our people. And if we put all these things in place, Mr. President, I will say that we are behind this exercise. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Tazi. May I now call on our Chief Whip of the Senate?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mine is just the timing. 31st of, my name is Oji Ozokala, I represent Abia North. I think because of the rural people everybody's hammering on. I would like to ask my colleagues to support some amendment of this motion that the central bank should go as far as April ending. I don't believe in 1 year or 2 years. 2 years will be too long. They should go up to April to be able to. Why are you people shouting? Allow me to finish. Mr. President, I'm protected by.
You are protected, and I assume you are finished. You are protected. Have you not finished?
So, it's a very good initiative, but 31st of January is too soon for rural areas. If you really want to change money in Nigeria, the rural people need to be given another 2-3 months to be able from January 31st to April 31st. I'm sure the Committee on Banking and Finance should be able to meet with the central bank governor and plead with him. This is our country. 1.5 years, mind you, this is Christmas period, and New Year is coming. And you cannot just say you are going to buckle people who are in merriment mode to come and change money in the marketplaces. So you give us time so that the rural areas who are planting rice, cassava, and the rest of them can come to Market Square to change their money. I so submit, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I'm going to allow as many people that wish to speak. But having said that, please, one house. Having said that, I'd like to make clear that we are guided here by extant law. And the provisions of that extant law, most especially section 17, 18, and 19, most especially 19(1) A and B of the CBN Act, even though not specifically cited, but I think the content has been alluded to all through the debate. It is within the exclusive preserve of the CBN board on the based on the recommendation of Mr. President and the approval of Mr. President to carry out this redesigning, the form, and the marks is within their exclusive preserve. And this also applies to timing. It also applies to timing. This is the law. We made the law. Let's not lose sight of that. Now, having said that, is there anyone who still wishes to speak? Wait. Good. Senator Suswan. Senator Suswan.
Mr. President, protect me, please. My name is Dr. Gabriel Suswam, Benue Northeast. Mr. President, why we all agree that is the exclusive prerogative of CBN to redesign and print money from time to time. My worry, Mr. President, is that the CBN governor, who is seeking our support, have in the past shown absolute disrespect for these hallowed chambers. There are several invitations that demand has been invited here which has not turned up. Mr. President, it is not within our own jurisdiction to give support to what the CBN wants to do because they're autonomous. They can go ahead and do this. It would be ridiculous for us to sit down here as a Senate and say that we're giving legislative support to CBN to do what has already been done. The president has approved the money, they're already printing it. And so, what are we talking about here? But having said that, Mr. President, now, Senator Betty mentioned very germane issues here. The implication of the economy, both on the monetary and the fiscal policy of this government. What has happened, Mr. President, is that announcement alone our inflation rate has moved from where we said to about 51%. About 51%, Mr. President. And so when you are taking a position such as this, you must be mindful. If the CBN had wanted our support, we are major stakeholders in the economy of this country. One would have expected that there would have been proper consultation, even though it is our exclusive preserve to do what they are doing. But then there was no consultation. After the printing has commenced, the president has approved as a legislative support. It will be ridiculous for us to go ahead and do that. Let him go ahead and do what he's doing. Mr. President, yes. Let him go ahead. Let him go.
Thank you, Senator Suswan. Senator Suswan, thank you. You've had your piece. Thank you very much. Senator Akman, and thereafter, Matthew Rohide.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished and respected colleagues, Mr. President, Senator Albert Akman, Akwa Ibom Northeast. Mr. President, let me first of all commend Mr. President, and the Central Bank of Nigeria for this initiative. Mr. President, we must be properly guided. 50, 60 years ago, 100 years ago, it was trade by barter. Naira came. Then the card came. I can tell you all over the world, no economy is guided by cash. We must be in tune with current global realities. All over the world, we now have digital currencies. All over the world. Mr. President, the volume of the current Naira outside the central bank control system can never augur well for our economy. It can never augur well for our economy. People are stashing away billions of Naira cash, trillions of cash, all over the world, in this country. So we must support the Central Bank of Nigeria. I'm not sure you have certain here that we are guided by the extant laws. That law, made by the National Assembly, does not require Central Bank of Nigeria to seek the support of the National Assembly. It does not. The Central Bank of Nigeria is carrying out its regulatory function and duty. So I commend the chairman banking. So there should be no further discussions on this matter.
Senator Akman, take your seat. Senator Akman, take your seat. Gentlemen, please take your seat. I will now put the question. I will now take your seats. Take your seats. Gentlemen, please take your seats. Please take your seats. Take your seats. Take your seats. Senator Akman. Senator Akman. Senator Akman, take your seat. Please take your seats. Gentlemen, take your seats. Wait. Take your seats. 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 Take your seats, please. I will go to the prayers. Prayer number one. Prayer number one. Urge the Senate to provide prayer number 1, urge the Senate to provide legislative support for the redesign of the new banknotes. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, mandate the Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions to embark on an aggressive oversight to ensure that Nigerians are adequately protected from the CBN, banks, and other agencies involved in the process. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer number 3, encourage Nigerians and the general public to comply with the Central Bank of Nigeria's directive to deposit cash holdings at their respective commercial banks. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer number 4, urge the Senate to support the decision of the CBN, given the aforementioned benefit of the currency redesign to the nation. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Point of order. Senator Baribe. Point of order, Senator Baribe. Point of order, Senator Baribe.
Mr. President, my order was actually for you to put the question. So now that you have put the question, my order is now null and void.
Noted. Senator Moro, point of order.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Abba Moro, representing Benue South. Mr. President, my point of order was for the President to allow our voices to be heard, because that is why we are here.
Noted. Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate. We are done. We are already done. We've moved on. Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate, please. Leader of the Senate. Okay, point of order, Senator Bashi. Gershom Basi.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. President. This is not working. Thank you, Mr. President. Gershom Basi, Cross River South. Mr. President, I come under Order 41. I come under Order 41 and 51. With your permission, may I read?
You may read. Gentlemen, please take your seats. Senator Suswan, take your seat, please. Senator Basi Akman, take your seat. Senator Gershom Basi, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting. And the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is urgent and definite. Order 51, notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in the respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required except with the consent of the President of the Senate
and the general assent of the senators present.
Well, distinguished colleagues, first, Senator Gershom Bassi did approach me earlier in the day about his intent to come up with this motion. And as you all know, under our rules, we require the concurrence of at least 1/5 members of the chambers for us to take it. So those in favor that we take the motion and say aye, and those against say nay, the ayes have it. Senator Gershom Bassi, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gershom Bassi, Cross River South. The motion is on the negative impact of the 2022 flood on Nigerian roads and the need for urgent and improved funding for FEMA from service-wide vote and NNPC tax credit scheme.
Senator Bassi, do I have copies of this for circulation? You don't, right? Okay, it's actually a 4151, really. So I'm okay. You may proceed. Proceed. So please be attentive. Listen. It's a 4151 motion, so it's not really required to circulate. Please proceed.
The Senate is aware that this year's floods are the worst that Nigeria has experienced in decades, as the rise in the water level is more than the 2021 floods and the 2020 episode. The Senate is further...
Senator Olerogbe, please. Senator Olerogbe, please, we want some quiet in the chambers. One house. You may proceed, sir.
The Senate is further aware that the 2022 floods have further worsened the deplorable state of Nigeria's federal roads. The Senate is worried that some major interstate roads are impassable as water has washed off most parts of the road and bridges, creating economic and human security crisis. The Senate is concerned that road transportation is the major means of transportation in Nigeria, since air transportation and others are not within the reach of most Nigerians. The Senate further concerned that the heavy vehicular and human movement of Nigerians associated with end-of-year festivities will be impacted negatively as a result of the deplorable roads occasioned by the 2022 floods. Accordingly, this Senate resolves, 1, to call on the federal government to immediately declare a state of emergency on federal roads and improve its funding. 2, that a service-wide vote allocation of 500 billion be made to the Federal Road Maintenance Agency for agent rehabilitation of roads ravaged by the 2022 floods. And 3, that the NNPC Road Infrastructure Tax Credit Scheme be extended to cover maintenance of failed sections of federal roads. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Betty Apiafi, and thereafter Senator Degi Iromioko Bubeku.
Distinguished colleagues, I rise to move this very good motion support this very good motion moved by Senator Gershom Bassi. Mr. President, I agree with Senator Gershom Bassi that currently we are working on the 2023 budget. The budget is still in our domain, and if truly, really and truly, we have the authority to budget as we always claim, I think it's time for us to do something drastic with the amount of money that is stashed away in the service-wide vote account, which is about 1.9 trillion. We should take our money from there, service-wide vote account, and fund our roads. The East-West Road, almost all the roads in the north, almost all the roads in the south, almost all the roads in the east. In fact, the other day we were having a budget hearing for Ministry of Niger Delta, and the committee rejected the bill, the capital portion of the Niger Delta Ministry budget, because it was too small, it can't do anything. And so I'd like to urge my colleagues to support this motion so that funds can be taken out of this service-wide vote account. And I'm sure, I mean, we are all aware that with the current current moves to check oil theft, we seem to be having some more revenues which will be going into the SS crude account. So I'm sure there will be some money left there later to use and fund some of the things in the service-wide vote account. But for now, I think that what we have in the service-wide vote account, we have more urgent things to use the money for. And the 500 million, like he rightly pointed out, the 500 billion should be taken out from there and use it to address the issues of road infrastructure. As we are heading towards Christmas and the dry season is coming, the floods are receding. I so support the motion, Mr. President.
Thank you. I will take
can do to address the concern as encapsulated in this motion. But let me stress one fact here, that going by revenues, it will be difficult for us to raise 500 billion to get that inputted in the budget, in the service-wide vote to carry out this exercise. But I want to recommend that the NPC road infrastructure tax credit can also be utilized to cover what is requested in this motion. I think we should look at that, but the idea of getting 500 billion to be included in the service-wide vote for this year's budget cannot be realized. It's difficult. We know our revenues. Mr. President, you were part of the meeting. In fact, you are the organizer of the meeting between the Senate and the Minister of Finance. You had the situation we have in terms of our revenues. So it's not really possible to raise this amount of money. We need to be realistic. We need to say the facts. So that cannot really work. But we can go for the NPC Road Infrastructure Tax Credit Scheme to accommodate this concern. I so submit, Mr. President.
Thank you. Before I call on Senator, excuse me? Oh, that's coming on, right? Listed. Yes. Oh, is that right? Oh, okay. You did not. Okay, but in any event, before I take on Digi, let me just point out here, as the chairman committee appropriations indicated, yes, as a principal officer, I did participate in those meetings, and I'm aware of the dire rates that we face in terms of our revenue. No doubt about that. But I must also point out that the devastation that we are facing right now, rising from these floods, is such that we need to take a very, very drastic decision. I don't know if we have to wait, for the NMPC intervention. As we speak today, the east-west road is being cut in half between Patani and Bayelsa and Yonagwa. Today, you coming from Yonagwa to Delta, you can't even make it there. You're coming from Delta today, to even get to Bomadi, you can't even make it there because the road is cut in half. And I don't believe that is the only road that is affected. I'm sure there are other roads, even in Kogi. The one in Kogi is, and Ekeditu, the one in Awuchi is cut in half. So the point I'm trying to make, Senator Barao, is that yes, I was in that meeting, but I have also personally experienced these difficulties, and which you may not have experienced. So we want to bring to your attention, those of you who are in charge of the budgetary process, to think out of the box. Knowing full well, yes, we have those challenges, but I don't know, it's a judgment you have to make, whether or not we have to wait for the NMPC tax credit intervention. But I'm thinking that if there's anything that needs to be done urgently, as you carry out this exercise, because at the end of the day, you can give us a budget, and if we don't have any economic activity, in the Niger Delta, I don't think it makes any sense to anybody in that part of the country, inclusive of Ekiti and Kogi and so on. So your budget might just be a document on paper, So this is something that we need to very, very urgently look into to see how some form of intervention can be made. Having said that, Degi, and after you and I will take the prayers. Senator Degi.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, present by Elsa East Senatorial District, FEMA, Senator Gershom Bassi. Mr. President, I think you have said it all because we are from the same part of this country. The road infrastructure had moved the motion even in this direction, seeking for declaration of state of emergency on our road infrastructure in this country. It was unprecedented. The destruction, as the Senate President said, this road infrastructure that had been damaged in this country, it is going to be a matter of mirage. And so I also support the mover of this motion that there is need for us to really think outside the box. What is worth doing is what Senate. I think that it is necessary to consider the service-wide votes and other areas of intervention through the Central Bank of Nigeria for the critical road infrastructure to be fixed before we consider any other aspect of the economy. Mr. President, I so support.
Remember, this is 4151. We have something else on the other paper that you contribute to, which is almost on all fours, with this issue, please. Prayer 1, call on the field aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Prayer 2, that a sent rehab of roads ravaged by 2022 floods. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Prayer 3, that the NNPC Limited Road Infrastructure Tax Credit Scheme should be expanded to cover maintenance of failed sections of the federal roads. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in my name under the committal on the following bills to the Committee of the Whole. The Committee of Bills and the Committee of the...
Please, one house, please. One house, Leader of the Senate.
The Senate reports that the following bills were passed by the Senate and the House of Representatives and were transmitted to the Clerk of the National Assembly for onward transmission to the President and Commander-in-Chief for assent. The bills are Custom and Excise Management Act, CAP C45 LFN 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2022, and the Federal College of Education, KINA, Nasarawa State Establishment Bill 2022, observes that some fundamental issues which require fresh legislative action by both chambers of the National Assembly emerged after a critical analysis of the bills by Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief. Aware that a technical committee of the Senate and House of Representatives and Directorate of Legal Services met and worked on the bills. Relying on Order 1B, 1 subsection B, and the Order 52 subsection 6 of Senate Standing Order 2022 as amended, accordingly resolves to resign its decision on the bills as passed and recommit same to the Committee of the Whole for recommendation, reconsideration, and passage. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion heavily moved by the leader. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate. Committee of the Whole? Right? Committee of the Whole, please. Yes, Committee of the Whole, okay. Okay. Okay, we take the Customs and Excise Management Act, CAP 45 LFN 2004. Where is it? Those in favor that the long title for part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The number of clauses we have here, it's 12 clauses. Those in favor that clause 4 on page 1 form part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 7 on page 2 form part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 10 form part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 12 is on page 3. Those in favor that clause 12 form part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. It's your bill, so you keep saying aye, aye, aye. You wrote the bill. Clause 14 on page 3. Those in favor that clause 14 form part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 16 on page 5. Those in favor that clause 16 form part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clauses 17, 18, 17 and 18 on page 6 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 111 on page 7. Those in favor that clause 111 on page 5, on page 7 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clauses 165 and 170 on pages 9 and 10. Those in favor that these two clauses form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clauses 171 and 175 on pages 11. Those in favor that these two clauses form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clauses 180, 184, 189 on pages 11 and 12. Those in favor that these three clauses form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 194 on page 12. Those in favor that clause 194 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 279 on page 12 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. The interpretation clause, clause 281 on page 12. Those in favor that the interpretation clause 281 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. The short title of the bill. Those in favor of short title say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The schedules. Schedules 253, 2, 2592 and section 2452 and section 3 on page 19. Those in favor that this schedule is form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. We deal with the second bill. This is the Federal College of Education, Kiana and Nasarawa State Establishment Bill 2002. The long title is on page 1. Those in favor that the long title form part of the bill say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. We have 23 clauses. We have 23 clauses on this bill. Those, and by the way, they're all retained. So those in favor that clauses 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clauses 4, 5, and 6 form part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clauses 6, 7, and 8 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 9, the power of the minister, clause 10, the provost of the college, and clause 11, the deputy provost. Those in favor that these three clauses form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clauses 12 dealing with the registrar and other staff of the college, 13 other principal officers, and 14 resignation of appointment. Those in favor that clauses 12, 13, and 14 form part of the bill say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clauses 15 deals with employees of the college, 16 deals with pensions, and 17 deals with selection board. Those in favor that clauses 15, 16, and 17 form part of the bill say aye. Say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 18 deals with the funding for the college. 19 deals with power to accept gifts. 20 deals with the account and audit. Those in favor that clauses 18, 19, and 20 form part of this bill say aye. Those in favor say aye. Those in favor say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clauses 21 deals with 20 deals with account and audit. 21 annual reports. Those in favor that clauses 20 and 21 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 22 is interpretation clause on page 8. Those in favor that this clause 22 on interpretation form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. The short title of the bill is contained in clause 3 on page 9. Those in favor that the short title form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. The schedule is contained on page 1. There's only one schedule on page 9. Those in favor that the schedule on page 9 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. The explanatory memorandum is contained on page 10. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
I move that we revert to plenary and report progress. I so move.
Please, one house, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last Mr. President.
The Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, considered the Customs and Excise Management Act, Cap C45 LFN 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2002, and approved as follows. Long title, as recommended. Long title, as recommended. Clauses 4, as recommended. Clause 7, as recommended. Clause 10, as recommended. Clause 12, as recommended. Clause 14, as recommended. Clauses 16, 17, and 18, as recommended. Clause 111, as recommended. Clause 165, as recommended. Clauses 170 to 171, as recommended. Clause 175, as recommended. Clause 180, as recommended. Clause 184, as recommended. Clause 189, as recommended. Clause 194, as recommended. Clause 279, as recommended. Interpretation clause, as recommended. The short title, as recommended. Schedules, as recommended. Explanatory memorandum, as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? On the second bill, the Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, considered the Federal College of Education, Kiena, Nasarawa State Establishment Bill 2002 and approved as follows. Long title, as recommended. Clauses 1 to 21, as recommended. Interpretation clause, clause 22, as recommended. Short title, which is clause 23, as recommended. Schedules 1, as recommended. Explanatory memorandum, as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate? Or clerk? Leader of the Senate, third reading. Those in favor? Yeah.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the two bills be read the third time. I so move.
Minority Leader. Minority Leader.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Thank you. Those in favor that these two bills be not read third time say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. We take the first bill. Clerk of the Senate, the first bill.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the Customs and Excise Management Act, Cap C45, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and other customs and excise legislations, and enact the Nigeria Customs Service Act 2022 to provide for the reform of the administration and management of customs and excise in Nigeria, and for related matters. Third reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish Federal College of Education Technical, Kiana, Nasarawa State, to provide full-time courses of teaching, instruction, and training in technology and applied science, arts, social science, humanities, and management, and to provide for the appointment of the provost and other officers of the college to carry out the administration and the discipline of students of the college, and for related matters 2022. Third reading.
A bill for an act to repeal the Customs and Excise Management Act, Cap C45, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and other customs and excise legislation, and enact the Nigerian Customs Service Act 2022 to provide for the reform of the administration and management of the customs and excise in Nigeria, and for related matters 2022. The bill is read for the third time and passed. The second one, a bill for an act to establish the Federal College of Education Technical, Kiana, Nasarawa State, to provide full-time courses of teaching instructions and training in technology, applied science, arts, social sciences, humanities, and management, and to provide for the appointment of the provost and other officers of the college to carry out the administration and discipline of students of the college and for related matters, 2022. Third reading, taken. The bill is read the third time and passed. Leader of the Senate.
Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, as you are all aware, we have visited lawmakers, French lawmakers. Yeah, okay. Yeah. We have visited lawmakers who are senators in France. They are from France. So they would like to attend our plenary. According to our Order 12, subsection L, Order 12, 12, subsection L, I move that we allow them to come and observe our plenary. I so move.
Leader, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that we waive our rules in standing orders and admit our point of order. Leader.
I come under Order 1. Proceedings in the Senate and all committees of the Senate shall be conducted according to the following standing orders. In all cases not provided for in this standing order or by session or other orders or practice, the Senate shall by resolution regulate its procedure. I would want to use this opportunity, sir, to see if it is possible, because of the number of people who are in this chamber today, whether it will not be injurious to the image of the Senate for us to invite foreign leaders, to visit us at this point in time. I think it would have been more auspicious if we can hold on until maybe possibly tomorrow or some other day when.
Thank you, Leader Emeritus. Your point of order is noted. Our guests are already here, and I like to believe it's overtaken by events. I therefore rule you out of order. Let me now rule on the order that was earlier read, which was Order 12. Those in favor that we allow our colleagues who are senators in the Senate chamber, I believe, National Assembly of France, to come into our chambers and observe proceedings. Those in favor say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Please create seats for them, please. Create seats for them, please. How many are there? Only 3? 4? Chairman, Foreign Affairs. Do we have their names to formally welcome them?
Get their names.
Yes, I think we should formally welcome them to chambers. Gentlemen, please take your seats. Chief Justice of the Senate, take your seat. Please take your seats. Take your seats, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Let me formally welcome our colleagues who are members of the National Assembly of France. I believe, I don't know if it's the Senate. It's the Senate? Okay, members of the Senate of the Republic of France who are visiting. I formally welcome Senator Bernard Fournier, Senator Francois Bonneau, Senator Giselle Jonda, Mr. Mark Praselia, who is an assistant to the delegation. We also have, I'm told, Ambassador Emanuela Blattman, the French ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Olivier Chatou, Deputy Ambassador, and your interpreter, Mr. Paulinus Uma. I want to, on behalf of the leadership and membership of the Nigerian Senate, welcome you. Oh, we have a member of the House of Reps. Okay, sorry. Is that the chairman of the committee or a member? Okay, member of, that's Maigari Kasim. You're welcome. It's a member of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs. Are you the chairman? Oh, you're the chairman. You're also welcome. So I want to formally, on behalf of the leadership and the membership of the Nigerian Senate, welcome you into our chambers and wish you a successful tour as you spend some time here in Nigeria. Let me just say up front that ordinarily this is not where we sit. This is just a committee room. The main chamber of the Senate, our hallowed chambers, is actually undergoing renovation. We told it's a renovation that should last and be completed, no later than end of January, by which time we hope that we'll go back to our cherished chambers. But in the interim, this is a makeshift arrangement because the business of the people must continue, notwithstanding the renovation. So once again, I formally welcome you to observe deliberations. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Leader of the Senate.
The second order of the day is the second reading of the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC Act, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2022, SB 1055. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 28 September 2022. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Asani Uba to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Senator Obasani, please.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, Senator Obasani representing Kaduna Central. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on this important bill, which seeks to repeal the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation Act number 16, 2006, and to reenact Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation Bill 2022 for the purpose of, among others, bringing the provision of the Act up to date with its operational requirement and aligning the NDIC with international best practice for deposit insurance corporation. The bill was read for the first time in these hallowed chambers on Wednesday, 8 October 2022. The Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, was established through the promulgation of Decree number 22 of 1988 during the military era. The decree, which later became an act of the parliament, occasioned by democratic dispensation, had remained in existence up to 2006, when it was repealed and reenacted by the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Act number 16, 2006. Since 2006, significant changes and developments have taken place in the industry that necessitated a review and amendment of the Act so as to bring the provision of the Act up to date with the operational requirement of the NDIC and align it with international best practices for deposit insurance corporations. The original text of the NDIC Act, as was passed into law in 2006, has numerous misprints and errors that resulted in ambiguities in the interpretation of multiple provisions of the Act. This has also resulted in multiplicity of lawsuits being filed as delay tactics to hamper the effectiveness of the corporation. Taking into cognizance the existence of the corporation over the past 34 years, the developments in the industry and policy thrusts of the government, it is expedient to review the Act as to harmonize its provision with other banking legislation and remove overlapping provisions and ambiguities from the Act. The Eastern NDIC Act does not adequately safeguard the operational and financial autonomy of the corporation. This is inconsistent with international best practices, as documented in International Association of Deposit Insurance, ID Core Principle 3, and the International Monetary Fund IMF report, which recommends that a deposit insurer is to be insulated from interference by external parties and should have operational independence. It is critical that a deposit insurer such as NDIC should be able to discharge its mandate without external interference. These operational and financial autonomy proposals in the bill are consistent with local precedents on the autonomy of specialized statutory corporations such as the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority Act and the Asset Management Corporation of Nigerian Act. In sum, the new Clause 1, Section 3 to 5 have been proposed and serve to guarantee the independence of the corporation and accord operational and financial autonomy to the corporation in the discharge of its function.
Senator Basani, it does appear that the copy you're reading from is different from what we have. Is that correct? Is that correct? Are you speaking to? Are you reading or you are speaking to it? Please use your mic.
The people is a secretariat, probably they missed a page. It's a page they miss. They miss a page. Why is that? Is it what? Is the secretary let them? Where is Canada? Just get Canada.
Point the further. Okay, just one. Come. Yes, Senator Sekibo, please.
My mark is not connected. Mr. President, we shouldn't take things for granted. This is a very important bill. We should rely on the premises of the lead debate so we can make out what to contribute. It's a very important bill. And then they gave us a document that is completely different from what is reading. So we are not able to capture the salient points that will help us for a robust debate, especially when we had foreign visitors, although they are leaving now. But I think that they either bring the copies, we stand it down, they bring the copy and then we take it, or you present it.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we should step it down, just as distinguished senator said, so that they can rectify it, and then next week we can take it.
Senator Basani, I'm not sure you have any objections to this, do you? You have objections to that? Do you have any objections to the proposal that we step this down until next week?
Mr. President, I think the correct copy is with the Secretariat here, and therefore I don't want to take responsibility for that. I believe they have it here. We can give them, we can go ahead to do other things when they're bringing.
Secretariat, do we have the copies here? Secretariat, do we have the copies now? Yes. Ajibola.
Senator Surajuddin Ajibola Bashiru, also Central Senatorial District. With respect, Mr. President, I think the copy that I have with me actually represents what is a lead debate. I don't know what is the same, whether it's the same that has been circulated to members. The only problem with that is there appear to be an interposition of a paragraph 3. So when that paragraph we apply blueprints rule, what is in this document actually capture the essence of what could be taken as second debate for this very important bill. Because of time and because of the legislative importance of this bill, I think what we can do is that Senator Basani, in presenting this document, which I believe has been circulated, should just apply that paragraph 4 of that document blueprint rule should be applied in it, so that paragraph 3, there's only one.
Which one? Is this not this one?
This one now is correct. Yes.
Senator Ajibola, I think I will rule on this. I think the preponderance of opinion here is that we step this down until such time that we have a clean copy of what we all accept is the correct lead debate. And I'm sure we can take that on Tuesday next week. So those in favor that we step this down now and represent next week say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
The third order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the ad hoc committee to investigate oil lifting, theft, and the impact on petroleum production and the oil revenues. Mr. President, with your permission, I wish to move the motion for the Senate to receive and consider the report of the committee. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President.
My distinguished and respected colleagues, Senator Albert Bassi Akpan, Akwa Ibom North.
No. Minority leader, please. And I've called on you. Second the motion before I call him. Those again say nay, the ayes have it. Senator Bassi Akpan, you may proceed.
Senator Albert Bassi Akpan, Akwa Ibom Northeast. Mr. President, I rise to move that this Senate receive and consider the report of ad hoc committee to investigate oil lifting, theft, and the impact on petroleum production and oil revenue. I so move, Mr. President. Six people. Maybe that's the one they do. Six.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gershon Bassi, Cross River South. I rise to second the motion ably moved by Senator Albert Bassi Akpan. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Akpan, you may present the report. Lay and present.
Mr. President, Senator Barrow Jibril Kano North. You have 13 members of this committee, but only 3 signed the report. Well, the one we have is 3. Only 3 signed. The one given to us. Only 3. The one we have is 3. The one we have, no quorum. So, which means we have 2 different reports. We have the one before us, Mr. President, is signed by only 2 people apart, including apart from the chairman.
Mr. President, we have to send this an advance copy. 6 people have signed this report out of 12.
Distinguished colleagues, yes, how many percent?
6.
Well, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.
It's 6.
No, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, but what? Okay.
No, we have to send to sign here.
Okay. Sergeant at Arms. Sergeant at Arms, please take your seat. Distinguished colleagues, the document I have before me, the report I have before me, has 6 signatures. Excuse me, just hold on. Excuse me. Senator Mandia, please address the chair. What I have here before me, this is the report before me. Out of 13 senators, I have the signatures of 6 senators. What I have before me, Senator Mandia, you elected me the Deputy Senate President. I'm presiding. It is my document we are going to use, not yours. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me, I am presiding. And this is the document that has been submitted. Unless these signatures are disowned. Excuse me. I don't even know the content of this report yet. So please, without prejudice, unless these six signatures out of 13 are disowned, I take it that majority of the members of the committee signed the report. 6 out of 13. No, it's the report of the committee. It's a report. I have 6 signatures. Distinguished colleagues, please, time is of the essence. Time is of the essence. Excuse me, time is of the essence. Let us go to the substractum of the report. I don't know what your views will be. Let us hear. Okay, Senator Sani Musa, point of order.
Mr. President, this is a committee of consisting 13 members. 13 membership. The first meeting we had, about 6 of us attended that meeting. And I'm sure that is the attendance that was attached to the one you have. But the ones we have as members, only 3 people signed. I'm seeing this report for the first time. And I'm a member of the committee. So how can we do it?
So are you disowning the report? Okay. Is there any other member of the committee that is disowning the report? Okay. Okay. Yes. So Sekibo, please, yes. Just 1 second, please. Is there any other member there who is disowning? Yes. Is that my vice president? Okay, yeah, welcome, sir. My vice president, yeah, welcome, sir.
Your Excellency, sir, I'm a member of the committee, and I'm seeing the report for the first time. So I'm also disowning the report.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, my vice president, thank you. Well, it is very clear to me, Albert, it is clear that the report is being disowned. Being disowned not as to content, but as to process. Therefore, let me hear Senator Sekibo. Please guide the Senate on what we should do next.
Mr. President, the report is a correct report. But those who ought to sign it didn't sign it. Now, not that they refused to sign it, they were not available. When did we resume? People were busy doing so many things. They brought it to my office. And I signed for it. You see, my name is there. Although I didn't read the report. Now, Mr. President, the truth is that most of the time when the chairman called for meeting, the members of the other committees are not there. That is the truth. Most of the times they were not there. But after he finished with the report, I am convinced that I attended for only 1 day, so I think they have done a job, so I signed. But I think that our rule says that it must at least be 1/3 that will sign it. It must also have the quorum. So it is not a wound. It is not killing it. It's to withdraw it and then attach the other one that they have a signature, sign it, and then submit it, or take it to all the members, within the weekend to read it. By Monday they read, and then if they approve, they say, if they make comment, just to the comment, and then it lays on Tuesday and we take it.
Is that the view of majority of our members? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Chairman, please take the report, circulate to your members, have them read, have them sign, and then represent. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
The first order of the day, please. The fourth order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Ndume Mohammed Ali. The fourth order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Ndume Mohammed Ali and the Senator Bomai Ibrahim Mohammed on the uneven disbursement of ₦500 billion loan to 6 geopolitical regions by the Nigeria's Development Bank. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Ndume Mohammed Ali to move the motion.
Senator Ali Ndume, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. And my distinguished colleagues, the motion, as it is on the other paper, is the uneven disbursement of about ₦500 billion loan to the 6 geopolitical regions by the Nigeria's Development Bank. The Senate knows a huge disparity and uneven disbursement of ₦500 billion loan to 6 geopolitical regions of Nigeria and the states in the country in the year 2021 by the Nigerian Development Bank.
One house, please, one house. Senator Jika, please take your seat. Senator Akman, take your seat.
Note that while Lagos State goes home with 47% of the total loan, the northern region in total gets 11%. Aware that the bank's annual integrated statutory report obtained 2021 on 13 July 2022 from organization's website, the bank was able to disburse a loan worth ₦483 billion only, out of which 11% went to the 19 states of northern Nigeria, while 47% went to Lagos alone. Aware also that the 11% of the loan that went to the north totals about 53,130 million, and that the 47% that went to Lagos State alone totals about 227 billion, 10 million naira only. Concerned that the loans were given out to the country's 6 geopolitical zones, where the data shows that the Southwest accessed the lion's share of 57% of the total loan, which is estimated to be around 274,740 million naira only. Worried that...
Sekibo, please, take your seat. Senator Jibola, take your seat. Senator Obasani, one house.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Senate President. Worried that South-South access 17%, which is roughly 81,940 million naira only. South-South, that's why you are affected. The Federal Capital Territory and the North Central region access 11%, which was 53 billion and 20 million. Southeast access a paltry 9%, which is roughly about 43,380,000,000 only, while the Northwest has 5% accessed 24,100,000,000 only. The Northeast assessed only 1%, the least share of the total loan at roughly 4.8 billion. Recalls that the Development Bank of Nigeria exists to alleviate financing constraints faced by micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises in Nigeria through providing partial credit guarantees and technical assistance to eligible financial intermediaries on a market conforming and fully financially sustainable. Notes that the top 5 sectors considered for the loan are oil and gas, 42%, manufacturing, 16%, agriculture, forestry, and fishery, 7.2%, trade and commerce, 6.3%, transportation and storage, 3.5%. Regrets that the lack of awareness of the existence of the loan or even the bank, religious beliefs, and that precludes Muslims from taking interest loans, considering the bulk of the people in the North are Muslims, and lack of formalization of business, as most loans require that one has registered company, corporate bank account, and good business plan, has hampered uneven loan disbursement. Accordingly, resolves to set up an ad hoc committee to carry out holistic investigation into the matter and report back to the Senate. 2, urge the bank to ensure equitable disbursement of the loan in all the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. And lastly, urge the bank to expand its loans facilities beyond 5 sectors already captured. Before I conclude, my distinguished colleagues and Senate President, I have an additional addendum that I distributed to members, showing 1, the poverty rate in this country, as captured by Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative. And I also distributed the graphical presentation of the loan as distributed by the bank. Let me also say and mention here, distinguished colleagues, that this uneven disbursement or inequality exists not only in the Development Bank of Nigeria, but it is also the same thing that is happening in Bank of Industry and also the AMCOM Borrowers Program. This is very important to the Senate to look at the disbursement of these funds so that some of the impediments that can be removed are removed, and then members of the public are encouraged to access these loans, because that will go a long way to solve the high poverty rate we are experiencing, not only in the North, but also almost all over the country. I urge my colleagues to support this motion, and the Senate should take immediate and appropriate action to address this. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues.
Senator Barrow.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barrow Jibrin. I represent Kano North in this hallowed chamber. Mr. President, permit me to support this motion in its entirety. This motion is apt and necessary. Mr. President, we are all aware that one of the things we've put forward in this 9th Senate, which is on the top of our agenda, is to ensure economic development of the entire nation. Bring in development economically in all nooks and corners of this nation. In total, it is our aim and our objective that this country should advance to the highest level economically. And this cannot be done without making sure opportunities are given to all and sundry, to all the nooks and corners of this country. Whatever we want to do, we have to make sure that we provide equal opportunities to all our citizens. What is seen in this motion does not go in tandem with this objective of ours. A situation where opportunities are given, but certain people are left behind, I don't think will go well for our zeal to bring sound economy to this country. We know the bedrock of a sound economy is the small, medium-scale enterprises. Therefore, our attempt to make sure that we provide succor, financial succor to these entities should cost across the entire country. If we decide to promote SMEs or any other entity, give it more priority or give it more opportunities in a way that other areas will not be taken care of, I don't think it will all go well for us. Therefore, all those that are saddled with the responsibility of making sure that finances are provided to the entities that need them should make sure that providing these finances should cut across the entire nation. Therefore, I support the idea or the request of this motion that there should be a kind of investigation as to how we have this uneven disbursement of loans to the MSME, so that we'll create a system where all those that need finances, as I said earlier, will be given equal opportunities so that they can access these funds. It's only through that that we'll be able to bring economic prosperity to the entire country. It shouldn't be one region takes the advantage of having economic buoyancy, whereas others don't have such opportunities. That would not go well for our nation. So I support this motion, and I urge my colleagues to also support this motion because it is apt. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Betty Apiafi.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, my name is Betty Apiafi. I represent Rivers West Senatorial District. I'm from Rivers State. Mr. President, before I say anything, I want to first of all inform the Senate that the Development Bank of Nigeria is one of the institutions under the purview of the Senate Committee of Banking and Currency. So we do oversight them. And then I also want to say that the Development Bank of Nigeria is a special purpose vehicle conceived by the federal government of Nigeria, but in collaboration with global development partners that provided the funds to address major financial challenges facing micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises. Now, they are a wholesale bank. They don't lend direct. They lend through institutions like commercial banks, microfinance banks, leasing companies, and other lending institutions. So now the availability of these PFIs, that's the participating financial institutions, determine the spread of this loan. So they don't lend direct. We've interfaced with them in past. So if you don't have the participating financial institutions, you can't reach out to these places. And they have international standards in terms of their lending. So what has happened is that when we interacted with them the last time, what has happened is that the people who approach them more or approach these participating financial institutions are mainly the enlightened and younger people. That's why you see Lagos showing a huge number of beneficiaries. In fact, at that time too, the Southeast was also showing a huge number of beneficiaries. So, and of course, we are all aware of what is happening with commercial banking. The shrinking of branches, rural branches, is making it almost impossible for the people in the rural areas to get to know about this product. So one of the things, if having said that, if you look at the entire motion and the prayers, you will find out that really the only thing we can do is to increase the PFIs, to make awareness more to the people, because you have to meet their standards for you to benefit from it.
But don't you think that should be a recommendation to us by the ad hoc committee?
We have an ad hoc committee when these financial institutions is part of the banking and currency, is under the purview of the...
But the bottom line is some recommendation needs to be made to us to explain and or provide justification for what you just explained. And we need a committee to do that.
Banking and currency is the committee responsible for this bank. We've met with them in the past. So I think we should just ask the Senate Committee on Banking and Currency to see how we can improve the PFIs, to number of PFIs that come out. Because the PFIs have to have certain standards. You must be registered by central bank. You must have audited.
But that standing committee has been there. And notwithstanding their presence, there is this disparity. Don't you think that we need to do something else?
We've been working with them, but this loan is not the usual come one, come all kind of loan. I'll just say that. Thank you.
Senator Jibola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Surajuddin Ajibola Bashiru. I guess the essence of what distinguished Senator Betty Apiafi is saying is that this motion itself is not conclusive as to the finding of what it has said. If it had been conclusive, there would not be an attempt to be referring to holistic investigation. So the essence of what Senator Apiafi is saying is this: since this matter is being raised, and we have a standing committee which has the purview of addressing this matter should be referred to the relevant standing committee of the Senate as a specific matter for which they can make finding, rather than set up another committee to usurp the function under our standing order in relation to that. And with respect, sir, we cannot say that because this issue is raised, anytime an issue is raised that has to do with the purview of a committee, then another committee will be set up. Yes, a reference in respect to this a very important matter. I'm not doubting it is very germane to ensure even-handed access to facility, but it should be to standing committee, shadowed with that responsibility under our standing order. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Ajibola. Without prejudice to the decision that will be taken by the Senate, I'd like to go back to my comment again. My curiosity is this: we have a standing committee that has been in existence. Notwithstanding their presence, we have this challenge. If it is something they ordinarily could have addressed, they ought to have addressed it by now. So I'm curious, will it be out of place? And that's a decision to be made by the Senate, not me. Will it be out of place to do something new by asking an ad hoc committee to look into this and recommend to us and give us those same justifications that Senator Apiafi has given? They appear to be very, very valid justification anyway, but without preempting what they will come up with, I'm not the one making the call. I'm just thinking that maybe it might be proper, subject to the decision of our colleagues here, to allow another committee to look into this and report back to us. I don't see any harm in doing that. In the absence of any further contribution, I think we should go to the prayers. Prayer 1, set up an ad hoc committee to carry out a holistic investigation into the matter and report back to the Senate. Those in favor of this prayer say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Amendment to prayer 1. But I've already taken it now. After taking it, What, don't you think you want to bring up by way of additional prayer? Huh? Okay, let's hear it. Wait, let's hear it. You cannot, right? Ajibola, give me the appropriate section of standing orders that permits you to amend without a fresh motion what we just agreed to. Yes. That's a answer, yes. Please, cite me to that order, please. That permits us to override ourselves, to rescind the decision we just took. Eh? That's what I thought. So please address me. I'm a judge today. How about that? No, he has not addressed me yet. He will address me and I will rule. Senator Jibola, you can't hold us to ransom. Time is of the essence, please, and we have a lot of work to do.
Mr. President, sir, this is not, what I propose to do is not an amendment motion. It's to amend prayer in an already taken motion. By the rules of this Senate, at every point in time, when a prayer is put up for resolution, a question is put. Upon that, a resolution taken can only be amended by motion. No, not by motion, which will be seconded. So having agreed...
Senator Jibola, cite me to the appropriate order. If you don't have it, I'll move on. You may read. Hold on 1 second. 47, okay. Okay, let me first take 47-2. This is not coming from the chair. It's not coming from the chair, so I'll rule you out on that. And then on 1, the matter is no longer under discussion. We have already concluded, so I rule you out of order. Second prayer, urge the bank to ensure the equitable disbursement of the loan in all the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 3, urge the bank to expand its loan facilities beyond the 5 sectors already captured. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate. Oh, let me set up the committee, the ad hoc committee, in accordance with prayer 1. It shall be a 7-member committee, and we have Senator Sani Musa North Central, you'll be the chairman, and you're going to report back in 2 weeks. Senator Ibrahim Dambaba from the Northwest, you're a member. Senator Akinyelure, our Chief Justice from Ondo, you'll be a member, you represent the Southwest. Senator Matthew Rohide, you represent the South-South. Senator Ali Ndume is your motion. You will provide the benefit of your input. You represent the Northeast. Senator Ekwinife Iyom, she's not here. She will represent the Southeast. And then the 7th member shall be Senator Sadiq Umar. But like I said, this should be chaired by Senator Sani Musa. You report back to us in 2 weeks. Yes. 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 No, I don't agree with you because you have so much. In fact, you've already done some work here. You didn't just wake up here right there and throw this at us. There must be documents and information you are privy to that we are not, and we need the benefit of those inputs, and guidance. For the purpose of this committee. So you are a member, sir. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day where is this guy? Because I'm sorry, no, we are stepping down on that one. But apart from that one, we are going to take another motion.
Concurrence.
No, not concurrence. We want to bring back this.
Okay.
Leader of the Senate.
You are not the chair now. I'm not the chair to fix. Shut up.
That one has been withdrawn for Tuesday. It was withdrawn for Tuesday.
What's Tuesday?
Yes, next week Tuesday.
Nobody said.
That was the one Richard said.
Nobody said. Yeah? No, we have it. We have it. If you do it. No, I think we have this one. No, we are talking about this one. It's here.
Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate, I understand that you want to reintroduce item number 2. Is that right? Okay. See, because of the exigencies of the moment, we don't have time again, and this is a very, very, very important bill, and we still have our colleagues here. Why don't we just take it? No, sir. It is, but I think we have more than enough members to take this. Please, I don't see any harm, I don't see, No, sir, look at, see, we have more than enough. Please, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, because of what is happening now, we feel that we should take that order, second order, we will take it again. That is the second order of the day of Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, Act, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2022. Distinguished senators, we recall that the first order was read, the first bill was read on for the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 28th September 2022. And considering the circumstances that made us to step down the order, now the new document has been presented and everything is okay. I therefore move that we'll take this one so that we can finish it quickly. I so move.
Any second on that? Senator Mandia.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Bello Mandia. I represent Katuna South. I rise as a second motion that this bill should be read for the second time. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Obasani.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Obasani, representing Kaduna Central. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on this important bill, which seeks to repeal the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation Act number 16, 2006, and to reenact the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation Bill 2022 for the purpose of, among others, bringing the provisions of the Act up to date with its operational requirement and align the NDIC with international best practice for deposit insurance corporations. The bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Wednesday, 8 October 2022. The Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, was established through the promulgation of Decree number 22 of 1988 during the military era. The decree, which later became an act of the parliament occasioned by democratic dispensation, had remained in existence up to 2006, when it was repealed and enacted by the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Act number 16, 2006. Since 2006, the significant changes and development have taken place in the industry that necessitated a review and amendment of the Act so as to bring the provision of the Act up to date with operational requirements of the NDIC and align it with international best practice for deposit insurance corporations.
Your seats, please take your seats.
The original text of the NDIC Act was passed into law in 2006, has numerous misprints and errors that resulted in ambiguities in the interpretation of multiple provisions of the Act. This has also resulted in multiplicity of lawsuits being filed as delayed tactics to hamper the effectiveness of the corporation. Taking into cognizance and existence of the corporation over the past 34 years, the developments in the industry and policy trust of government, it is expedient to review the Act as to harmonize its provision with other banking legislations and remove overlapping provisions and ambiguities from the Act. The Eastern NDIC Act does not adequately safeguard the operational and financial autonomy of the corporation. This is inconsistent with international best practices, as documented in International Association of Deposit Insurance, ID Core Principle 3, and the International Monetary Fund IMF report, which recommends that a deposit insurer is to be insulated from interference by external parties and should have operational independence. It is critical that a deposit insurer such as NDIC should be able to discharge its mandate without external interference. The operational and financial autonomy proposal in the bill are consistent with local precedent on the autonomy of specialized statutory corporations such as the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority Act and the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria Act. In sum, the new Clause 1 Sections 3 to 5 have been proposed to serve to guarantee the independence of the corporation and accord operational and financial autonomy to the corporation in the discharge of its functions.
Yeah, welcome. You may proceed, please. You know, as a leader, is entitled to as many points of order as is willing to bring, and I will approve it. Yes. Yes. For obvious reasons. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. The proposed bill, when it becomes, in sum, the new Clause 1 subsections 3 to 5 have been proposed and serve to guarantee the independence of the corporation and accord operational and financial autonomy to the corporation in the discharge of its functions. The provisions specifically empower the corporation to develop and adopt such regulations, guidelines, codes, and procedures to govern A, the conduct and operations of the corporation in accordance with its function, B, the expenditure of the corporation to ensure transparency and accountability, C, the corporation's governance code, D, code of conduct. The proposed bill, when it becomes law, projects the following advantages for the banking industry. 1, provide a robust legal framework which will strengthen and reposition the corporation to effectively discharge its statutory responsibility. 2, bring about operational improvements. C, align the NDIC with international best practices for deposit insurance corporation. D, strengthen NDIC powers. E, hold investigators of bank failure to accounts, expedite the winding up of failed banks, align with the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act 2020, and address sundry matters. Conclusion. The repeal and reenactment of the NDIC bill, when passed into law, will have overall effect of making the bank industry more in tune with today's realities, as well as mitigate direct compliance with global standards. While the existing legal provision in the BOFIA and NDIC Act empowers the authorities to take a wide range of resolution measures, these powers can be enhanced, recognizing that banks are highly vulnerable to lose of confidence and contagious risks. There is a dire need to consider broader public policy and financial stability objectives to aid in the effective discharge of their mandate. As the foregoing paragraphs show, the key changes to the Act seek to align the NDIC with international best practices for deposit insurance cooperation, strengthen the NDIC powers, hold investigators of banks' failure to account, expedite the winding of the failed banks, and align the bill with provision of the Welfare Act 2020. I therefore urge you, my distinguished colleagues, to support this bill for second reading. So much, Mr. President.
Senator Sadiq Umar, do you raise your hands? Please, okay. And thereafter, the man who was named twice, Yusuf.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. I am Sadiq Suleiman Umar. I represent the good and decent people of Kwara North, and we all are. Mr. President, my colleagues, I rise to second that the bill on Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation Act, repeal and reenact Bill 2022 SB 1055 be read for the second time. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, this is a timely bill. Not just that it will provide a robust, legal framework to strengthen the insurance bank, but it will also align it with Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act 2020. Mr. President, we know the risks depositors face in trusting the systems to put their money in banks. What we can do as lawmakers is to make laws to give confidence and protect these depositors. And to do that, we need a bill that protects, the insurer for these depositors without any unnecessary interference from external forces. Mr. President, I therefore second this bill, and I think that there is not much debate here. We just go ahead and approve this bill to be read for the second time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I must take Senator Yusuf, and thereafter Barao, and then.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Yusuf Abubakar Yusuf. I represent Taraba Central. First of all, let me commend the mover of this bill and say he has done well, because when I was in the bank, that was when we actually, worked to establish, the NDIC. And it is one of the most important financial institutions to give credence on the importance of protecting the interests of depositors in banks. And we've been calling for the inclusivity, of the financial system. And the only way is to make people believe that, look, their deposits are actually protected should there be any reason to do so. We don't pray. I've been a victim. I worked in a bank which was liquidated, in 1996, and I know what we went through with depositors. So the best way to encourage people to even invest, to put in their deposits, to even in the long term, to make investment feasible and also create long-term funding in our economy, is to boost the importance and the relevance of Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation. And the support of this bill has become eminently necessary, and I think, Mr. Chairman, we have to support it, and at the same time, we have to commend each and every one of us that will support this bill, and also make it possible for people to put in so much of their money, not under the pillowcase, not under the pillows, not putting them in one place or the other because they believe if something happened. But what I would say at this point in time, let us make the refund of depositors' money in case of a failed bank to make it as expedient as possible, because some of us up till now we are battling with the little refunds that are coming from NDIC. So, Mr. President, sir, my distinguished colleague, I support this bill, and I commend to each and every one of us to support it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Abaro Jibrin. I represent Kano North in this August Senate. Mr. President, I'm attracted to this bill, one, because it is reported that in the extant bill, you have a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes, which has brought ambiguity in terms of interpretation, and it has led to lawsuits, several lawsuits as we speak, due to wrong interpretation because of these features contained in the extant bill. So for this reason, it is quite really important to see that there is an amendment of the bill to make, to correct these features that are embedded in the bill. And again, Mr. President, the sponsor clearly stated that it is important now to amend the bill in order to ensure the independence of this corporation so that it will go in tandem with international best practice. This is very, very important. But I want to say that when the bill goes to the committee stage, the committee should understand fully what is applicable to the best deposit insurers in the world so that we don't make another mistake. Let us look at what is happening. Let's not just use guesswork. Let's understudy to make sure that whatever we are going to do in terms of amending this bill this time around, we get it right. So for this reason, I support this bill and I urge my colleague to support this bill so that we will make this corporation to be in the best position to perform its function. I so submit, Mr. President.
I think I will not put the question. Excuse me? Yes, I put the question. Those in favor that this bill now read second time, say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation Act, number 16, and reenact the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation Bill 2022, and for other matters connected therewith 2022, second reading.
A bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation Act, number 16, and reenact the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation Bill 2022, and for other matters connected therewith 2022, second reading taken. The bill is referred to the Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions to report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that we stand down all other items on the order paper to another legislative day. I so move.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, having concluded today's proceedings on the order paper, I hereby move that the Senate do adjourn till Tuesday, 22nd November, 2022 at 10 a.m. I so move.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. This Senate is adjourned accordingly to Tuesday, the 22nd day of November, 2022 at 10 a.m. prompt.